as you guys are probably already aware, I had a bit of a break. Had like 4 months off creating content, and it wasn't that I was doing nothing. I was busy in the background with doing some house renos and some other stuff. But one thing that I've been doing more than anything else is something that we've wanted to do as a family for a very long time, and it's just been sucking up a bit of time. It was winter anyway, so I wasn't getting out as much as I usually do. And we just sort of thought, life's short, we'll make it happen and do what we can to make that dream come true. And so, as well as the house renos and family and all that kind of stuff, what I have been doing is working on this thing. A 2006 Toyota Coaster bus. And we are converting it into a motorhome camper thing so we can travel the country with a boat in tow and get up to all sorts of mischief. Hence the reason why we downsized the boat. This was the main reason, because we want to be able to have the boat in tow. We want to take it everywhere we go, and the F16 was just slightly too big for that weight and lengthwise, so we downsized and went for the open dinghy, which again is for a good reason. I'm not going to let you guys in on that one just yet, but in due time you will realize why we went for the open dinghy style boat. It was for a good reason. But anyway, I have been working on this beast, and I will give you guys a quick rundown of what I have done since we've owned it. So first off, we got the bus and we had to strip the whole thing out. There was some water ingress, some damage, some mold. The floor was rotten out and it stunk and it was gross, so we just stripped it back completely, back to bare metal, so we knew what we were dealing with and we could start fresh. Once I had everything stripped down to bare metal, I gave it a nice couple of coats of an epoxy enamel just to prevent rust and prevent the likelihood of me having to revisit any jobs further down the track. I then started laying the high density foam foil backed insulation on all the interior shell of the bus to prevent condensation. The kids wanted to get involved, so I got them cleaning out the window gutters from years of build-up of grime and algae and crap, so we could have a nice freely opening window. And then I went through and removed the safety stoppers on all the windows that we wanted to open fully to give that complete opening of the sliding window instead of having preventative stoppers on every single one. And then we had some nice, easy to move opening windows on the perimeter of the bus.
All from this.
After that job, we started on the floor replacement. So I cut out some new templates out of 16mm ply and we undersealed that, and again coated the underneath with the high density foam insulation before we installed the panels. I then pre-drilled all the holes and screwed them in so they're nice and snug, and hopefully they will never have to come out again. Once I had that done, I could walk around the bus freely again, so I carried on with the insulation. This not only prevents condensation, but it also acts as a sound deadener. Alright, next piece of the puzzle. I'm going to rip all the seats out, all the lining, all the aircon, and just go back to bare metal and check everything's all good, clean everything and put it all back in. Front stripped out. We've cleaned up all of this. There's a few rust patches around the corners where there's been water pooling coming in through the windscreen, and we've got some pretty nasty holes up here. Definitely gonna need some welding up in here. It's way more serious than I thought, but it is why I got the bus so cheap. But we've got to get the dash out, see how far it spreads. In. While the kids were busy on the dashboard, I was on the outside removing the windscreen to treat the rust and put it back in and start fresh. These coasters are known to rust around the windscreen, so I wanted to get onto it fast, sooner rather than later. When I bought the bus, I knew there was some rust in it. I didn't quite realise how bad it was, but I took the gamble, and it was why I got the bus so cheap. I then ground it back to bare metal so I could prep and treat all the rust before installing the new windscreen. So we're just gonna etch it with some acid. That'll kill the rust and etch the steel ready for priming. Alright, so I've welded in a new patch up there and down here, and we're just priming it up, ready to paint. Alright, update time. Finished the windscreen, welded in, blocked up the vents, double sealed everything so that ain't coming anywhere. And inside is a shit tip at the moment because we stripped out the dash, treated all the rust in both sides, painted everything, and this is our new windscreen area, which was about a week ago rusted to shit. So it looks pretty good, happy with it. Get this done so I can finally tackle the roof vents in the back and finish all the insulation. Alright, so we're just framing up the ceiling with some timber strips, evening out the curvature of the roof of the bus. We're going to screw shiplap along the centre where you can see I've already done. On the sides in here behind the overhead cupboards, it's going to be sort of 3mm ply behind that just to save a bit of weight and because you're not going to see it anyway. So what I've got to do is even out the curvature of the side of the bus, and you can see these here, these screws are protruding out and stopping that nice curvature. So what I'm doing is I'm undoing these one at a time so you don't get too much warpage, and replacing them with these little Allen key headed bolts. That's just going to reduce the profile of the nut sticking out and help me get a better curvature on the corners of the bus. So I'm just going through one at a time and replacing the bolts with these with a bit of Loctite on it and doing it up real tight because these are structural ribs. Alright, that's those done. Now what I'm going to do is make up a beam of timber for the curvature of the wall. So I'm just getting some cardboard, putting in here and tracing out a template. I'm going to skip the curvature and come out a bit so I can miss the end of this because it does still stick out a bit, and get it flush down to here. I'm going 20mm ply because I can fit it into this gap here and I can still screw into the sides to put it in there, and that's going to have the plywood screwed into that to get that curvature. So there's my template cut out, and I'll just extend that to the bottom lip of here. So I'll just keep going for a bit longer on my plywood, and I'll test fit the plywood template before I cut them all out, but that's pretty much how it's going to sit. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a couple holes into here and screw it into the frame. And first, I'm going to trace this out 14 times, I think it is. I'll double check that, and that'll make sure they're all even. Now I'm just going to grab a level and just see how it looks. I'm not looking for a level itself here, I'm just seeing what it looks like with a straight edge on them. The real test will be going across 3 to see if they're flush. To do the overhead storage along here, I need some right angles to work with, and obviously everything here is curved, so what I'm going to do is use this as the structural part. So I'm going to use this rib here as the structural part and this one here, and I'll build out from those. To get a right angle out of this stuff, I've got some lengths of this cornice, this beveled cornice stuff, and this just works perfectly to get as much of a right angle as I can out of this bus roof. So what you do is you use the angle on this to counteract the angle of the roof of the bus, and it goes on there. It gives you the right angle to work with, and this is also going to act as the dressing between the shiplap, which is going to be in the middle behind me over my head, and the 3mm ply that's going to be inside the cabinetry. Alright, next I'm going to chuck up some insulation in these corner panels before I lay over them with ply. There's a million ways to do this. I've decided to go with a closed cell foam with a foil lining to stop the condensation on the skin of the bus. This just acts as a buffer between the cold metal and warm air inside and prevents condensation. Works absolutely amazing. Over the last few weeks when I've been working in here, the bits that had this on, not a drop of condensation, and the bare steel was saturated. So just a self-adhesive, stick it on, get rid of all that bare metal before you lay your insulation on top of it. I'm going to go with a vapor barrier on mine. I'm just using some clear polythene. It's automotive polythene, they use it in car building, so I decided to go like for like instead of paying heaps for builder's paper. So I'm going to get the bats in, 75mm bats, R2 thermal rating, but it's just because of the size, 75mm. I don't want to go any higher because you end up with a really thick bat and it's going to put pressure on the roof and just cause that warpage. There's no point going over the top with your insulation anyway if you're going to keep all your windows, because these are all just heat sinks. So it's just pointless going all out on the insulation. Do it for some noise and a bit of insulation, but you're never going to get it perfect as a bus. It's a big metal bus, so don't get too carried away. I'm going to start chucking this in and then I'll get the plastic over it. Next job is to get this clear polythene and lay it over that insulation. It's going to act as a vapor barrier, but it's also going to keep it up and stop any fiberglass eventually making its way into the bus. And then I can start, I'm going to go and get some plywood and lay it up on the sides. Alright, there we have it. We've got all our vapor barrier up, insulation behind it. We've left a bit of slack on the side because with the curvature of the wall it's going to take up the slack on the vapor barrier. If that was tight it would stretch it and break the seal. So I've purposely left that a bit saggy so it can be pushed up. This stuff's a bit tighter, but over time the insulation's expanding, so once I lay the tongue and groove back over that, they'll compress it all and it'll go back to be nice and tidy. Next job is to lay these lengths. I was lucky enough to be able to get full lengths. So I have full lengths across here with no joins, which is absolutely primo. And then I'll have the 3mm ply on the side and I'll be able to build my shelving straight down here and across here. And I'm just going to have open shelves on this side and enclosed shelves on this side. Yeah, so that's where we're at the moment. I have just finished the roof nearly, so I'll probably leave that for another video. I just wanted to give you guys an update because I'm pretty excited about this stuff, and I think you guys should know because you're supporting this as well as everything else by watching these videos. So yeah, a lot of work, but we'll get there in the end. So stay tuned for the next video.